Wednesday, February 16th, 2022. This is a special meeting of the Board of Selectmen of the town of New Canaan. This will be a short special meeting for one purpose. We have Steve Karl, the chairman of our town council, with us today, as well as John Howe in the room, and Cheryl Jones, Tiger Man, Tucker's here, and Kathleen and Nick are here, so we have a quorum. But the purpose of this meeting is to take action to recommend the naming of the town pool for Steve Banco, who passed away last Friday night. When we first learned of Steve's cancer in December, we knew he was going to have a battle, but we never knew it was going to be as short as it was. But in January, when Steve was getting bad news about the progression of his disease, Steve Karl suggests that we begin to think about how we could honor the memory of Steve when he finally passed. And we settled on the pool because of two things that Steve was most proud of in his almost 50 years. Service to the town of Canaan was Dunning Field and the community pool at Waveney Park. So we talked about that, and we hoped that we were going to be able to have a ceremony in June when Steve would celebrate his 50th anniversary of employment, and also the 20th anniversary of the opening of the pool. Unfortunately, God had different plans, and he took Steve from us last Friday night. As I said last night to the Board of Finance, Steve was a remarkable public servant. He literally gave his life to the town of New Canaan for 50 years. A native of New Canaan, he was always there for everyone. He was a friend. He was, I know I would call or email him any time of the week or weekend, and he would always reply. He was always there for everyone. So with that opening remarks, I'd like to, Kathleen and Nick, if you'd like to make remarks now, or do you want to go after Steve, however you want to do it?
Hey, Kev, I spoke eloquently about what Steve meant to the town of New Canaan. As I commented on his obituary online, I mean, Steve literally was everywhere, doing everything all the time for the town of New Canaan. You know, if you had a problem with your AV system, if you had a fence to put in, if you had whatever, I mean, my gosh, this guy was everywhere. And the wealth of experience and his knowledge of the history of New Canaan is unsurpassed. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I mean, he was Mr. New Canaan through and through. So I think this is a wonderful way to acknowledge what he's done for the town of New Canaan. Thanks to Steve and John for pushing this forward. But he will be missed.
Kathleen, do you want to?
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. I would just say that it was certainly a privilege to know such an extraordinary man with an immense dedication to his family and an unwavering commitment to our community. And as I thought about this naming of the Waveney Pool, I really thought about that this was an opportunity for his legacy to be remembered for generations to come. So I want to thank Steve and John, you, Kevin, everybody who's been involved in this effort.
Thank you, Kathleen. Steve, why don't you tell us what was recommended last night to the board, the Parks and Recreation Commission, and
Hey, thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Nick and Kathleen, for having me here this morning. We did talk at length last night at Park and Rec about the naming and the history of sort of how we arrived at the pool, looking at different parks. We looked at Mead Park, we looked at Kiwanis and Irwin. The track at the high school was even suggested. There was a tennis courts, paddle courts, all kinds of different ideas, roads and trails, etc. But, you know, as Kevin mentioned earlier, Sue Banco was able to ask Steve what his biggest accomplishments were in his career. And the first one he named was Dunning Stadium, and the second one was the pool. And, you know, it just seems fitting because Steve held the pool. Steve Dayton last night said the pool was Steve's fourth child. And that was a good way of explaining how important the pool was to Steve and what it meant to him. You could find him there at 5 a.m, emptying the skimmers of gum wrappers. And, you know, it was his baby. I mean, he just loved that pool. And as Kathleen said, you know, we'll name this pool and for a century from now, it'll be called the Steve Benko Pool. So it's the right thing to do. It feels right. The Parks and Rec Commission voted unanimously to move it to you folks. And tonight at the council, we'll have a little bit longer presentation. I know you're busy and you've got things to do this morning, but tonight we'll get into a little bit more detail about a little bit of the history of the pool and go into sort of how we got here. So today is your opportunity to voice your support for obviously your sentiments about Steve and the family, and then bring it to the council tonight for the naming, the official vote. We did contact, I know Kevin contacted Bob Rogers, who was on the original pool committee. Bob had reached out to me and we talked at length. He is completely in support of this and had several great things to say about Steve and his influence on the project originally. He's also asked if and when we dedicate it, he'd like to attend. I also reached out to Ann and Lee Cotton. Ann Cotton was obviously instrumental as well. They were down in Kiowa where they live, and they're actually planning on making the trek up and attending a dedication as well. So they're, the original folks are thrilled that we're doing this for Steve and very apropos. So the next step, once the council votes tonight, we'll form an ad hoc committee and get the plans in place for things like signage, and we'll have to do a little fundraising probably, and then set a date, get some invitations out. It'll be a town-wide event when the time comes. And as Kevin said, I think it was actually Kevin who discovered the 20th anniversary from 2002 to June 1st to 2022, 20 years coinciding with Steve's 50th anniversary. It's just, it's meant to be. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Steve. So it's appropriate that the town council is the one that actually decides to name, but the Parks and Recreation Commission recommends, and this Board of Selectmen should recommend. So I move that we recommend that the community pool at Waveney Park be named in memory of Steve Benko, and we'll have a dedication ceremony probably in June to celebrate both the anniversary of the pool and also Steve's would have been his 50th anniversary as an employee of the town of New Canaan and as a colleague. So I so moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Kathleen seconds. Nick, do you want a second as well? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. That's our short meeting this morning. I would know for those watching that a memorial service will be held next Thursday morning at First Presbyterian Church, and there'll be calling hours at Hoyt Funeral Home the prior day on Wednesday, the 23rd, from 4 to 8 p.m. So for that, I move we adjourn this special meeting.
Second. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks very much. See you tonight.
Thank you.
Mhm.